Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and there's a moment that sticks to your insides. A split second in Iraq when Athena Ives, Marine Corps Lioness, had to decide whether to take the life of a woman holding her child's hand. That kind of moral collision doesn't fade when the deployment ends. For Athena, that memory set the course from being invisible in combat because her story didn't fit the system to pulling herself out of homelessness and earning a PhD in forensic psychology. She's lived the cost of both the fight and its fallout. Now Athena's using every shard of that experience as a woman, peace, and security advisor, pushing leaders to see how perspective and presence can change more lives than brute force ever could. If you're a veteran who's carried scars nobody wants to talk about, or wondered if the worst moment of your life could actually become your reason to keep going, this is the episode for you. So let's get into it. Athena, welcome to the show. So excited to get to talk to you. I have waited for this one for a while.
And, it's funny because there are certain people, podcasters that have reached out. And by the time we get to the interview, I totally forget who they are, but I didn't forget you.
Well, that's awesome. I love it, man. Let's dive right in because I know your story is incredible. We'll get to why I actually reached out to you. I wanted to have you on the show here in a little bit. But first question for every vet that comes on is, where did you grow up and what inspired you to become a Marine Corps Lioness?
I have a very odd upbringing. Born in San Diego, California, to the hippie surfer parents that were kind of in that crisis of they're lost. They're kind of, neither of them graduated high school, got married very young, and were looking for something that was larger than themselves. And unfortunately, they found that in religion. That led to moving all of us to join a cult in Michigan.
Oh, no.
And grew up there. It's very similar to 12 Tribes, if you're familiar with cults.
I'm not. I never fell down the cult rabbit hole, but I know. I think the biggest one I know is like the Warren Jeffs or Jeffers or whatever. That one way out. I think it was in Texas or Utah or something.
That's always the first question everyone asks me. Which cult was it? Well, it's so interesting that people ask that because they've only heard of the main ones, so they would have never heard of this. And they don't. Not all cults label themselves. In fact, they try to avoid some of those labels. It's just given to them. So it basically extreme fundamentalism. If you watched Shiny Happy People, very similar to that. The extreme subjugation of gender roles and manipulation of power and extortion of money, child trafficking, all of that kind of
all the wonderful things in the world, right?
Which made me perfectly normal.
Right? Yeah, I can imagine.
Issues growing up. And it's funny because a lot of people say, I've talked to a lot of other people that were in cults and then joined the military, and they're like, well, we left one cult to join another.
You just stole my line. I was going to say that at some point. It's such a cliche, but it is. I mean, the military is a fucking cult. It's a cult. It's why I have a show that talks about transition, because we have to decultify ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was, I grew up, in my experience, my parents did the worst decision they could possibly do and allow me to play soccer or football for our international followers. And that changed my life because I was so good. I had to go play on the all boys leagues in national level and all the select teams, and even 2 years up. So I was playing highly competitive with all males and got a taste of what it was like to kind of break those gender barriers. And I was never going back. I didn't want to be the traditional wife and housekeeper. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that just wasn't me. I have not a submissive bone in my body. I wanted to be, Lara Croft or G.I. Jane, and I didn't want anything to do with that. But I was really good at soccer, and that was my first love. So I joined. After that, I had a full ride scholarship for soccer to play in college, and I wasn't passing that up.
Right.
So my freshman year, I had a career-ending knee injury. And after that, I ended up teaching kindergarten.
Oh no.
Loved it. I love that the 4 and 5-year-olds are my specialty. Like I have those kids.
You
Like,
are a much better person than I am because I have zero patience for that
well,
at
everyone has
all.
their skills, but it's kind of that's where my specialization is. The I don't know about I've worked with teens, but I find them a little bit more challenging than having that age is such an incredible opportunity to mold those minds and teach them that they could be anything, and to see that transformation of all of a sudden then now they can spell their own name and they're starting to gain this confidence, and it's just such a cool age
The
to
aha moments,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
amazing to be part of that. And after that, I was at a point where I wanted more, and I knew that if I didn't join, I was going to regret it for the rest of my life. So it was never even a question which branch.
Really?
Yeah, not even a question, because I've always been, someone asked, I went to go run a marathon. They're like, well, are you going to do a half marathon Thursday? No, I'm going to do the full one. I've never asked, well, what's the lowest score you can get to pass? No, it was like, what's the highest like fitness test I have to do to get 100 perfect. I always wanted to be the absolute best and to go the hardest route. And to me, that was the Marine Corps. And that was the closest to combat that I ever think that I could become, based off of their mission and just the requirements.
What year did you join?
In 06.
So still not letting females into the infantry at that point, right? Okay. I don't even remember when that happened. I was getting out about the time that happened. So
that was in 2000. I believe it was
like 13 or 14.
11 they started and then by 13 I believe is when they had to have it completed by.
Yeah, so that one that makes sense because 13 came home from Afghanistan, 15 was medically retired. So I was kind of on my way out before any of that got to me. So no, I get it. The Marines, was it about the uniform too? Every Marine I've had on here, every male Marine, especially all the special ops guys I've had on here, they all fell in love with the uniform. It was the uniform for them.
It's kind of funny because that really wasn't. And I actually, I dated a Marine and then I lived with a Marine. And so I got the actual reality of it.
Got it.
So yeah, the Marines, I believe that they have the best uniforms, but it was you're, as a Marine, typically I wore my dress blues, which is like the kind of one that they're all like, oh, I want to. You wear that once a year, maybe.
I know, yeah.
So
seriously, unless you're on because you guys in the Marine Corps, you have really cool assignments. You get to go to embassies and all that stuff. So then you're probably wearing that uniform quite a bit at the embassy. We don't have that in the Army, and there was a period of time, probably for almost 8 years, I didn't wear my dress uniform ever. Because we were just deploying all the time. It was train, deploy, train, deploy, train, deploy. Then after Afghanistan, as I was getting out, they wanted to go back to the dog and pony show of uniform. I was like, I'm never going to be a good garrison soldier ever. Ever. Probably better that they medically retired me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me, it was more of, they were more elite. They were smaller, more selective. The training was harder. The basic training required more warfighting skills and warfighter training. And to me, that was more of the appeal than uniforms or, be like, oh, you can go all over the world. I was told that was a complete fabrication. That was a lie. And it's true. I mean, I didn't go anywhere but Iraq.
I bet too, the mindset, having lived with a Marine and dated a Marine, that there really is a distinct difference in the way you Marines versus the rest of the military refer to themselves, carry themselves, talk about themselves. I'd say like the closest thing to a Marine is like an Army infantry guy. Like we talk pretty much the same, but the attitude of most Marines is like, I'm going to run through a fucking brick wall and there's nothing you can do about it because I know I am the shit. And I'm like, well, okay, that makes sense. So
yeah. And it's ironic after I got out and I started studying kind of like psychology and different reasons people join and the different MOSs that they're attracted to, I've always related a lot to special operators. I read Operator Syndrome, and I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I was reading my therapist notes. And they, they were talking about how operators are typically failed athletes, or athletes that almost went pro, or extremely intelligent people that just didn't either have the attention span to sit through school, or they just weren't at that genius level yet. So it's a combination of extremely athletic or extremely intelligent people that are drawn to those kind of more intense, operational focused mindsets of those positions. And that's exactly who I am and what I was looking for.
Yeah. So when you went into the Marine Corps, I know there's a process you have to go through to become a Lioness, correct?
Back then, it was not. My process involved, hey, we're deploying to Iraq. I'm at 29 Palms doing Mojave Viper and all the pre-deployment training. And a few days before we were leaving, the training, going on pre-deployment leave, they said, hey, do you want to volunteer to be in the Lioness Program? I'm like, what's the Lioness Program? They're like, oh, well, it's females that get attached to infantry units. I'm like, sign me up.
100%, right.
Absolutely. And so they're like, okay, be here at 06 tomorrow. I'm like, okay, cool. So show up and basically get taken out to a brief, where a special effects brief. And it is, I don't even know, like there was probably like 300 male Marines, and I'm the only female there. And they're like, hey, you're with this platoon. And it was 48 hours of like automatically grab all your gear, and we're doing, a forced hike out to the wherever we were going, and like running practically 8 miles. And from there, it was the coolest 48 hours ever. We were doing like night raids and pop-up ECPs and clearing houses and CQB and all this stuff. And it was just like,
I found it. I found the thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I didn't really get training. It was like all of a sudden I was attached to like, hey, you're with this fire team, you're clearing rooms. And I'm like,
I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
okay. We had the basic training at Marine Combat Training. After you get out of basic training, you go to MCT, and they teach you, like, you have like 1 day of CQB. And now all of a sudden you're trying to like think back to 2 years ago when you had a brief, class on CQB, and now you're in a fire team, like clearing a room. You're like, oh God, this is so cool. So held my own. I definitely gained a lot of the respect. And then after that, that was it. That was basically.
So that's the selection process when you went through it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the actual mission of the Lionesses? And we may have actually crossed paths. I don't know. It depends on when you went to Iraq, but I went on my second deployment, which was my longest deployment, and we fell under the Marine Corps. So we were out west in Heat and Arupa and out on the Jordan and Syrian border. When we were in Heat, we had a cop out there, and we had 3 female, Lionesses on that cop with us. And so we would rotate platoons through. And so maybe our paths crossed, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But the way I understand it is you guys were there to really search the female population, really, is what you were there for. I don't know the whole mission. I want to understand it better in your own words from somebody who is a Lioness.
Yeah. So, and that has actually been really challenging for me as well, until in the past few years, when information has finally started coming out, when the ban was lifted and people started to actually talk about it and dig into it more. It all started in around 06, I believe. When infantry units were struggling because contraband was still getting through the checkpoints, when they would go and patrol through the villages, whether that's, on a special forces mission or an operation or whatever they were doing, and they weren't able to go into the rooms. And so why wouldn't they hide all the weapons and all the contraband and all the intelligence and everything with the women? Not only that, but the women in many countries and cultures hold information. a lot of
A
intelligence.
lot of information. Yes.
And so it was a combination of both having a female being able to speak and get that intelligence, but also that searching and being able to stop and kind of cut down on that infiltration of smuggling and different contraband getting through. From my understanding, the Army were the first ones that started bringing women and
Yeah, we did. We called them FET teams. They were
well,
female
actually,
engagement teams is what we had for
so
the
that was
longest time.
so it was before that. It was
Okay.
in 06. It was around 06, and it was unofficial. And I believe still in 06, the Marine Corps were the first official, like any kind of paperwork, any kind of like legal name or whatever it was mentioned at all in any kind of correspondence or writing where it was an official program where the Marine Corps was the Marine Corps. But we also kind of everyone shared. It was women from the Army were attached to Marine infantry units where the first females, first at least Marine Corps females that were killed in Iraq were part of the Lionesses of Fallujah, and they had made such an impact and cut down a huge supply chain that there was a coordinated attack and on their convoy and took out I believe they were in a 7-ton, took them out and killed multiple of the Lionesses, Army, Marine, and there was also a Navy Lioness. So it was all the branches, other than I think the Air Force. I don't know if they had any, but it was a lot of women just got, hey, no training at all. Hey, we need you. Can you come help us? Absolutely. And they were moms that never had any training. They were sisters. These weren't the typical women you would think of. And a lot of that changed when they saw the success of the Lioness Program. And that's where the FET team evolved from.
Okay.
Where they based a lot of their understanding off of the Lioness Program and a lot of the mistakes that happened or a lot of the information that they found. They started putting that more into training and getting more involved in procedures and selection and who are we looking for? What are they going to be doing? And then it evolved into cultural support teams. So they kind of each branch started to develop their own. I know the Army did a lot of recruitment for CSTs and they had to go through selection. They could either be placed with more of like the Green Berets where they would go and be more about hearts and minds, and then the others would be in the direct action with Ranger units and Delta Force and different things like that. I would have definitely gone that route.
Yeah, of course.
But unfortunately, I had gotten out by that time and I wasn't able to do. But I mean, I gotta do some. Like people are like, "Oh, all you did was search women and children." Okay,
Yeah,
that's not what we're doing. I mean, I was getting pulled for mission. I would go out to just an entry checkpoint and they like people would come and be like, hey, I have no idea who they are. They're like, you're coming with us. We need your help. Cool. And I had no idea their names, all unidentified, weren't wearing any kind of uniform that I recognized and doing all sorts of missions like that. But I never could talk about it because I was like, you aren't here. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So it was just like lots of that. And
so you had a lot of fun.
But I will say this. If you have seen Making Black Hawk Down or the documentary series?
Yeah, I have actually.
Okay. So there was a moment or an episode where Tom Satterley was pinned down in the house and he looked over at the mother, and in the documentary he starts tearing up. It was the only time he did it.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's the first time I saw the human side of war. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of men, a lot of special operators, a lot of people around the world, read documentary or saw documentaries. It's that human side of war that destroys them.
Yep. Moral entry.
And that is every single mission that the Lionesses went on or any kind of our entities went on. That's what we dealt with. We dealt with the human side of war. And that's pretty much it takes a toll. It really, really does.
It's what I tell people. It's not the things that I did while I was deployed. As far as taking life or fighting or whatever. It's the moral injury of picking up your buddy's body parts and putting them in a dump pouch to take back with you, zipping up those body bags, right? Like putting them in the fucking reefer trailer until you can get them out on a helicopter because you got a fucking sandstorm for 3 days and your buddy's laying in the damn reefer trailer. Like that's the shit that's hard to get over, right?
And a lot of time it's the kids.
That too. Yeah. I mean, you were talking about how the Lionesses came about and contraband still getting through checkpoints. In one of my early deployments, we had a woman blow herself up on a bridge, taking out a bridge for miles over the river because we couldn't touch them. We couldn't do anything with them. And it's like, I mean, seeing shit like that took out 3 kids that day. She had 3 kids with her and just really weird. I don't know if you experienced this, but I experienced this particularly in Afghanistan because I was in Afghanistan way later. I did 3 to Iraq. So from 04 to 2011 basically was my Iraq time. And then I went to Afghanistan in 2012, completely different fight, but they were using children as shields. And like they knew our TTPs and they were directly combating against that because they knew we wouldn't kill kids. And eventually you get the green light. Like if they're holding a weapon, they're a threat, take them out kind of thing. That's tough too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it gets even more sinister than that. We had basically they were starting to use very similar to kind of like what cartels do, and they were putting contraband in dead babies.
Oh boy. I'm not surprised. I mean, they were stuffing IEDs in dead dogs in the early days of the war, right? And it just, the shit, man, the shit that you see, it's crazy. Let's move forward because the whole point of the show is to help our brothers and sisters move through the transition. You and I met, I reached out to you after you made this post. It says tattoos, history, and bias. Warrior women throughout history carried tattoos just like men, from Scythian fighters to Iban women in Borneo. Ink was mark of strength, identity, and survival. Yet that part of history often goes untold. Fast forward to today, and tattoos still carry stigma. Many of us have heard the comments, cover it up, not professional, or even not hireable. In the military, tattoos are fine when we're deployed and fighting in combat, but the moment we return to garrison, suddenly our identity drops if ink is showing. Or lethality, excuse me. Research shows this isn't just perception. People with tattoos are constantly judged as less professional, less competent, and even less honest, with real impacts on hiring decisions and salaries. Women in particular often face even harsher reactions. You felt that bias firsthand, the raised eyebrows, the subtle remarks, the assumptions about professionalism. When that happens, you like to remind people it's Dr. Ives, not Miss Ives. My tattoos are not a liability. They're lived experiences, scars, and symbols of resilience, reminders of where I have been and of the warrior women who came before me. And then it goes on, you have more of that post. But in essence, that really spoke to me because what you talk about in that post, I've experienced several times throughout my life. And it's obvious, like heavily tattooed, just like you. I've experienced that actually ended your career because when I reached out to you to ask you if you would do this show, you gave me a whole nother long explanation of what actually happened to you. So if you're willing, I would like you to tell that story to the audience so that they know what you actually dealt with and how you actually exited the Marine Corps and how that actually affected you getting out and all the things that you would do after.
Yeah, so I was a diehard Marine.
Were you a career girl? Would you have done it forever?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had, at the time, I had picked up meritorious sergeant in 4 years, in 3 years, little over 3 years. And people, it bugs the crap out of me because people are like, oh yeah, you got, just because, all the typical knees jokes and all that. But what they didn't know is that I should have been meritoriously promoted way before that. I had lost meritorious promotions because of not false out. Basically, I'll just break it down. The first time was in boot camp when they gave it to the other honor graduate because she didn't come in with college units and I did, but she didn't. I was 3 seconds short of becoming Iron Woman and Iron Grad or honor graduate. And the Iron Woman is basically the highest fitness test out of all of the females graduating. Missed that by 3 seconds, but I also had honor graduate. The other honor graduate couldn't even. She barely passed her PFT. So I was better at pretty much all the stuff than her, and it pissed me off. I didn't get the promotion.
Yeah, fucking college credits are the thing that prevented you from getting it,
like,
which is ridiculous.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so once again, I'm being penalized for going and doing everything you're told to do. Like, go get educated, go do this. Okay, now you're going to get penalized. Right?
Yeah.
And then at engineer combat training or combat engineer school, I was guide the whole time and ended up being falsely accused of providing alcohol to somebody. The reason they accused me was because I left alcohol because somebody had sexually assaulted me. They like grabbed me and all in the middle of everyone. So I just left. I didn't want to deal with it. I just left, and they dropped my name. This person dropped my name, and so because
was it the person who assaulted you?
Yeah.
What a motherfucker, man!
Yeah.
I gotta stop you for just a second because when I started this show, I was first accused of not being open to having women on the show, and that's simply not true. I've had several women on this show. It's just women weren't coming to me at the time, right? So I was reaching out to as many people as I could. That's simply not the case. Then I did get women on here. I've had people like Rochelle Smith, who run the Silenced Voices of MST podcast, really turned me on. And I have to admit, I was ignorant to it my whole career because the infantry is a separate world inside of the Army from the rest of the Army, period, end of story. And we already established that females were not allowed in the infantry when I was in and serving. So I had leadership that just told me straight up, stay away from females in the Army, period, ever. It'll ruin your career. However fair that is, I don't know, but I just kind of heeded that advice and just did it, right? Like, just didn't interact with women my entire career. Plus, most of the deployments, I didn't see a woman for months, right? Like, that's just how it goes. So I was ignorant to all of this, and every single woman I have had on this show, it's probably over 20 at this point, all have a story just like that. And it's fucking disgusting, and I don't understand how I could be so ignorant to it, but it just wasn't a part of my world. So what a piece of shit, and really don't know, like, I don't have words to say how just disingenuous and bullshit that is. And I've heard it from women who have retired as full bird colonels who are dealing with it from other full bird colonels, like really high up flag officer type stuff. This is all levels. It's not just the lower enlisted level. So,
and he was actually what we call, I can't remember what they call them, but he was forced out of his MOS because of sexually assaulting other women.
A wonderful human being that should still be in the Marine Corps.
That's why he was in our school to learn a new MOS. And when I got pulled into the first sergeant and was like talking and told him everything, he was like, I believe you that the reason he's here is because of this, but unfortunately, because you are flagged, we can't promote you.
That's bullshit. That's absolutely bullshit, because your first sergeant can override all of that shit.
So that was the second time. And then it was just, one after the other. And then the third time was actually, that was the third time. The second time was at Marine combat training, and I was guide. It was the first co-ed platoon to go through, and I was the guide of that. That was huge. It was like the first trial kind of pilot test to see if women could do the training as a basically we just combined. We slept in different facilities, but we did everything in a platoon of and I was guide for that platoon.
So you're a badass Marine. You're like Marine Corps to your bones. Like, nothing you're not doing in the Corps. Probably could have gone MARSOC if you wanted.
So it was I knew that a lot of the instructors were sleeping with a lot of the girls, and their code word was like, "Hey, come take out the trash." And so one of the instructors came and tried that on me, and I'm like, with all due respect, go fuck yourself.
Right.
So the time comes for graduation. My staff sergeant loved me. He was just like, dude, you are such a badass. You're going to do amazing things. I'm so proud of you. We're going to meritoriously promote you. So I'm standing there in formation, like graduation, like ready to get meritoriously promoted. And they call the girl that was like, had slept with every single instructor, and we all knew it. And they called her name, and I was like, are you kidding me? And so he came up afterwards. He's like, I am so sorry. He's like, she came to me and threatened that if she didn't get promoted, that she was going to report all the instructors. And I just couldn't do that to them. And I'm like,
have a little fucking integrity, man.
Right. So so when people tell me like, oh, you just got meritoriously promoted, because I'm like,
oh, if you only knew. Well, and it's fucked up too, because I have buddies who fucked up and were instructors at airborne school and lost everything because they decided to make a decision to sleep with a student. Those instructors know that they're not supposed to fucking do that. So this dude, what a fucking lack of integrity, man. That's such bullshit.
And so it wasn't. And you know what? I look back, and it's like, if I hadn't been pushed, if I hadn't had people tell me every day that I didn't belong, if I didn't have men tell me like girls don't belong here, I had to prove myself every single day. After cold weather training, I Bridgeport, California, it's some of the hard people that I've known that did all of the training for their Army, different selection processes, different. They said that the training that they did in Bridgeport was by far the hardest they've ever done. And I gained a lot of their respect because I was I think I was the only female that didn't fall out of the formation during the hike up, because it was 13 miles. It was like, I mean, we're in snow boots and snow. It was brutal. It was insane.
Not something you want to do again.
No. And I thought it was like, oh, finally they're going to accept me. And I ended up getting pneumonia up there because of like how much I put out, and ended up the one like there was like one operation that they were building log barriers that they're like, I was coughing up blood, and they're like, you need to go into the med tent and get checked out.
And you're probably like, no, I'm not going to do it.
And I refused. They were trying to send me down. They were trying to send me down the mountain. Like, you're done. I'm like, no, I'm not done. I'm not leaving. So they're like, okay, fine, go get checked out, and then if you get the okay, you can stay. So I missed that, but I didn't leave.
Right.
And then that's all I heard. Oh, yeah, she didn't do the entire. She, was too weak to hack it. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm never. So it was. There was never any kind of.
You can't win. It's a no-win situation.
You have to prove yourself every single day of every single second that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was. So yeah, going back to what you were saying, I had a 300 PFT, which is basically perfect PFT that you can get. I was a sniper, so not the highest score, but I qualified in the, in some of the top range scores that you can do. Everything I did, I put my heart and soul into it. And I was going to move over to counterintelligence. I'm not CID, so criminal investigation. So it's kind of like the Marine Corps' branch of NCIS.
Yeah, same thing. We have CID too.
Yeah, and very hard to get into at that with the Marine Corps. And I was waiting to get for the board to basically. So rewind a little bit. We got briefed that, hey, there's this new administrative policy coming out for tattoos. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make things more strict, so because they didn't need all the individuals, they were cutting down on people.
Yeah, I relate to this because when I joined the Army, they documented the 2 tattoos that I had, and then about a year into my career, the Army, and I can only speak for the Army because I don't know how the rest of the branches did it, but I assume they followed pretty closely to what we had done. They just put a moratorium. Like, they didn't care, particularly when the surge came. So like 06, 07, they just let everybody into the Army. Lots of people they shouldn't. The tattoo policy went away. I started getting sleeves and everything. I'm sure you probably did the same thing. I don't know how many you had when you came in or whatever. And then as I was coming back from like my third or fourth deployment, there's whispers of they're going to change the tattoo regulation. And I'm already fucked at that point because I'm head to toe at this point. I always did, though, keep it so that in long sleeve Class A dress uniform, none of them showed ever. That was like the workaround, right? Like you could get away with it as long as in Class A uniforms with the jacket on, none of your tattoos show. And so I know what you're talking about because I lived through that also. And I was like, man, there's so many of us that are fucked. They're just going to push us all out because we all spent the last decade getting tattooed after deployments.
So what they were supposed to do. So it's all, and this is where part of the reason I'm at the job I am today is when new policy comes out, policy is written by people that they don't quite understand the impact. And
yeah, they're fucking pencil pushers who've never lived a day in the life of the people that they're writing policy for. Yep.
Absolutely. And that's why I do kind of what I do today, because that policy impacted the rest of my life. And it came out, and it's called a MAR admin. So it's something that isn't quite policy. For actually, you know what? I take that back. It was basically how it read was, if the tattoo policy is changing, after this policy comes out, you are no longer allowed to get or to enlist with tattoos that are visible below the sleeve. So anything below like the sleeve. So they're like, hey, if you're going to go get a sleeve tattoo, go get it now and you get it grandfathered in. If you have a sleeve tattoo, go get it now, or go get it documented now and you'll be grandfathered in. So we were pretty much told, hey, red light or green light, go get your sleeve tattoos now. Put it into your whatever we call it, SRBs, put it into your folder and you'll be fine. I had a board that I was going on that wasn't that basically I had two things going on. I had my re-enlistment package and I had my lat move over to CID package. Those were both, I had done both of those before I got tattoos because I needed to talk to the board of CID to see, hey, this is I'm all about this. However, I would like to get a tattoo. I was cleared by my command told me I could go get them, but I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going, maybe you frowned upon it. I want to do this. What do you recommend? They're like, we actually like the tattoos because it helps you blend in more and be more relatable. So they're like, hell yeah, went out and got it. Okay, so now I have both of those packages up with the first sergeant, acting sergeant major, and she was getting forced retired. She didn't want to leave, but no, everyone hated her. She basically was the kind of person, well, this is what she did. On deployment, she took a convoy out to a FOB to give a Marine page 11 for being like 2 pounds overweight because she hated him. That's just who she was. She risked lives to go. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's who she is. So she just wanted to take out as many people as she could. So she saw my tattoos and she saw that my packages were on her desk and I didn't have a tattoo waiver. But I went and had all of them documented into my SRB, and I'm thinking I'm fine. I am like golden. I am ready to go like conquer this new job. And I get called into her office, and yeah, she basically told me that she had called CID, told them that I was getting investigated and was going to get NJP'd, so they dropped me. That package, they kinked that package, so I wasn't accepted, and then she wouldn't sign off on my re-enlistment. So I had 10 days to get out. Honorable discharge, but the day I got EAS'd, she was trying to find me, and my career planner was like, get out of here. She's trying to find you so she could extend you and NJP you, tank your rank, put you on restriction. And I'm just like,
why?
That's just who she was.
Wild. That's wild to
Yeah.
me.
So,
What? And
yeah.
this is unfortunately the kind of leadership that runs the military. There's so many more of those than the good ones. And look, I relate to this. When did you actually get out?
2010.
Okay, so I got out 5 years after you did. So I retired. Actually, it's coming up. My decade mark is next week, actually Sunday, believe it or not. But they forced a lot of us combat guys out. And I know that for a fact because every year before I left Washington State, I would always go to the Rock on Memorial Day. And 2 years after I got out, I went to the Rock to do the thing that we always do, shoot our shots, cry our tears, go on about our way. And 7th ID had decided to do this big dog and pony show. I'm looking around the formations of a division, and there is no combat awards, no combat patches, no combat hashes. And I'm like, what the fuck has happened in just 2 years? There's no way that there's not senior leadership with combat experience leading these men and women right now. And we had heard it. They were pushing all of us with combat experience out because for whatever reason, and I don't know, I think that's when everything turned, is when all these toxic leaders, these shitty leaders, this burn, I'm getting forced out, so I'm fucking taking everybody with me because I can. That attitude, it's terrible. It's so bad.
And I've just had, since I got out, I have met a lot of female officers and female senior enlisted that have been absolutely incredible. But my experience with, on my deployment, I was out at, I don't even know what you would call it, a fob, but it was like super small.
A cop.
A cop, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was attached to one of the entry checkpoints that I worked at. And so there were around 15 SWAT huts, and then their main headquarters was like one of the houses that they took over. I stayed in the janitor's closet. Basically, I'll send you a picture. It's a janitor's closet, and that's where my interpreter and I slept. But I like that. Those were 5-day missions. So anytime it would come up, they would send me because they would always request me. And so I would get to leave my command for like a week. And so when I was out there, they had ran over the search hut when they were moving barriers. So they crushed it. And they're like, well, we don't have anything for you guys to do, but you can just stay. I'm like, first, Martin, I'm not going to just stay and sit here on my ass. I'm going to work. Like, I'm an engineer. Let me build you the hut. I'll build you a new one. Do you have lumber? Do you have these supplies? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, you can do that? I'm like, yes. So I was
an engineer. Of course I can do that.
Building that. And I was taking lunch, and all of a sudden, rounds going off, people screaming. I'm like, holy shit, we're under attack. Like, I'm like, dude, here we go. Grab my rifle and run out the door. And the building right across from like the where we'd eat chow was on fire. And so these things were so close together, you could barely like walk through them. So it was like one after the other were just popping up. It was like an electric fire happened. And I'm running in and out. Rounds are going off, like walls are falling in. I thought I was going to die. And we were just dragging people out, grabbing things. I ended up grabbing their porn stash. I didn't know what it was. And they were like, thank you. You guys don't thank me for like saving your life. But you thank me for saving
your porn. Yeah. Yeah. It's important on a deployment. Come on now.
And so after, there was one of the Marines who were like taking pictures with my camera. And at the time, like every time I'd go out on mission, I would usually wear flight suits because it was the easiest way to actually pee without removing anything. I found a way I could pee standing up if I had my flight suit on. And so I had taken my flight suit and taken the top and tied it around my waist. So as in the bottoms were flight suit and the top was skivvy shirt. So when I get back to my command, my captain walks by because I was showing my staff sergeant the pictures of the fire and all the damage done. And she's like, oh, I'm so glad you're okay. Oh, are those the pictures? And I'm like, yeah, you want to see them? She like grabbed my camera and took it back to her office. Nothing. It was just pictures of the fire. I made sure I was gonna, oh man. No, so it was just the pictures of the fire. And I get called into the first sergeant's office, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna finally get an award here, like for all the work I've been doing. I get called like literally out of attention. She starts reading me my rights. She's like, we're charging you with conduct for unbecoming for taking pictures with half-naked Marines, because they were running around in their silkies, because it was like they were on night
Because
shift.
that's what you do when fucking shit pops off. I
And
can't tell you how many times I've thrown a helmet and a vest on with no shirt,
exactly.
in PT shorts and
They were
flip-flops to go to the wall and shoot
Yeah.
at people.
Yeah, they were sleeping and woke up and the roof's fallen in on them. What do you want them to do? Get fully clothed before they leave the building?
This is the kind of shit that doesn't
Yeah.
get talked about, Athena.
No.
This is the
And
shit
then,
that nobody ever hears about. This is the kind of shit that we all had to deal with over the course of our careers. It's not just you, just so you know.
I know.
I had a fucking brigade sergeant major who would commandeer fucking drones to tell us to unroll our fucking sleeves instead of killing bad guys. We're going to police call uniform fucking standards while we're out here fucking in firefights and could drop hellfires on the assholes who are shooting at us. But instead, you would rather have the drone looking at us to make sure that we're wearing our sleeves correctly. Fuck you. Why don't you come out here and fight these fucking fires? You know what I mean?
Yep. And that's where I'm at a position now where I'm working at the very, 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 very top. And so I'm a field person. I am not garrison, and these are garrison as fuck. And I'm telling them, and I'm talking to an audience of special, of experts, and I'm like, look, I hate it too. And I'm like, but we need you here, because if we don't have people like us helping influence policy, oh man, did I get in trouble with that one.
So when you got out, what did you end up doing? You were homeless for a little bit, then you got a PhD. Now you're doing something that sounds pretty amazing that I'm sure you can't talk about.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't have said the last statement either.
Well,
but yeah. Anyhow,
names have been dropped, and
yeah,
so
no, it was because I had my life completely flipped upside down, because the Marine Corps was my life. That's
Same.
all I had. And it wasn't a transition. It was a kick the fuck out. Like, I didn't get kicked out, but it was 10 days. So it felt like just all of a sudden your life was over.
I relate to that a ton, because I was med boarded out. So I was medically retired. And yeah, I spent 18 months in the med board process, but you have no idea what's going on with. Back then, you had no idea. Like, it could be tomorrow. It could be fucking 10 months from now. You don't know. And now you're just this outcast that they don't really have a spot for you. One point, I had a first sergeant try and put me in a fucking training room with an E5 as my boss, and I was like, that's not gonna fucking work, dude. Like, I'm not gonna fucking do that, man. I'm an E6 fucking P. Like, you're not gonna put an E5 in charge of me. Like, fuck you. Like, that's the kind of shit. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, your orders have been lost in digital land for 6 months. You have 3 days to clear all of post and get the fuck out of the Army. And I'm like, what? Excuse me, what? And like you, I joined at 17. My whole life was be the best infantryman for the United States Army in support of the global war on terror that you can be. That's it. That's my whole identity from 17 to 30 years old. It ends November 2nd, 2015. I'm left standing with my dick in my hand and not knowing what to do. Like, lost. I understand the feeling that you're talking about.
Yeah. And it was dark. I mean, and
it's real dark, isn't it?
And not only that, but I mean, at that time, within a year of getting out, I had a gang hit put out on me by my brother.
What? Excuse me, what?
Yeah. So my brother is this is all alleged, but this is like, he raped me from the time I was around 11 until I don't even know how old I was. So I know exactly who he is and what a piece of shit he is. So when I was deployed to Iraq, I found out from my sister, who was born at the time where I was contemplating suicide when I was like 13. She saved my life. And so her and she's kind of like the whole reason why I didn't completely escape the cult, because I was still involved with that because of her, because they kept her from me. I raised her. She was my kid. And so they kept her from me, and that was the only reason they still had control over me, was because of her. So I had called home on her birthday, and I was out in Iraq. It was May 2nd. And it was, I always would call home for her birthday, or I'd always say happy birthday or do a big birthday. So the night before, it was time change, so I can't remember exactly what day it was, but I knew I had a convoy the next day. So I called her, and my mom told me that she was under the delusion that she had been raped by somebody, and she would tell her who. And I knew right away who it was.
It was your brother.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I heard that news, and my entire life ended. Like, it was just the absolute worst news you could ever hear as a parent, because that's who I was to her. And it destroyed me. It was an out of body experience. And there was somebody like knocking on the door, a girl I wouldn't call her friends, but I spent, like, she was in my unit, so we slept next to each other. Like, I knew her very, very well. I ripped her head off, and she was just bawling her eyes out and left, and she was trying to call home. I wake up about 4 hours later. I don't even know how I got back to my room. She ended up getting blown up that night. 4 other Marines died.
Fuck.
So it was like,
talk about dark.
Oh, it was. So that was on deployment. In the Lioness Program, those missions are what saved me. It was having that, purpose to keep going was what really got me through. But that's the kind of person I knew he was. And so I had written a letter to his wife, warning her who he was. And because he had a little girl. End up finding out that he abused her too. So we were going to court, and I was going to testify. So he put a gang hit out on me, killed my dog, and threatened my life. And I ran, because it was the 2 days before the gang hit was put out on me that the one of the gang leaders came up and threatened me. And I knew he's like, your dog, we killed your dog. I knew my dog was dead. But a few days before that, my neighbor came over and asked me, like, are you okay? Because they're following you. What is going on? And then a week before that was one of the deadliest gang shootings in our area with one of that the guy was in the gang with. And they had killed like 15 people. And I'm like, I am not, like, this is not, I'm not messing around.
Time to go.
I like packed up everything. I was actually pregnant at the time. Packed up everything and moved that night. Ended up having an injury because of, like, I was moving myself. I was moving this really heavy bed, and it fell on me. I don't know if that caused it, but I had a miscarriage that night. And so it was just like one thing after the other, after the other, after the other was happening. And it was like, reason to live was just kind of not there. And this is where, and then from there, I ended up I kind of got back up on my feet, went and lived all over Thailand, which was probably the only thing that really kept me going. Lived all over Thailand, studying human trafficking, and ended up being robbed, and ended up with no money, and back in San Diego, homeless, living in my car, doing my dissertation in my car.
You were doing your dissertation while you were home. Look, I'm not like poking fun at like your journey, but like, that's fucking impressive. That's badass.
And I had gotten into a 24-hour annual subscription where it was like $12 for the year, because I had signed up for this like huge package and I had paid for it. So I was like showering in the 24-hour gym, but I was still going and working out. I'm going to the library. Spent most of my day in the library, and then I'd like work in my car. And
it's incredible what we're actually capable. The resilience we display when faced with those. I mean, you figured it out. 24-hour fitness. I can shower. I can go to the library and work and study. I think we oftentimes forget we even have libraries because nobody uses books anymore. And you can find food. That's not really that hard. Like, I find free food all the time somehow. It's just like food's everywhere. So good for you. That's awesome. And a dissertation in your car. Like, I hope you put something about living in your car in your dissertation. I have no idea what your dissertation was about.
No, it wasn't, but yeah, so it was just, I mean, it was, and that's where, and that wasn't just, you know, I had grown up, lots of my childhood I don't recall because of how abusive it was. I mean, I was being abused from the moment I was born. We were taken by CPS when I was a kid. Horrible abuse. And so when I hear people talk to veterans, or I hear, you know, the popular saying going around, what is it exactly? Don't make a permanent solution for a temporary problem. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. It's not a temporary problem. It's been going on for 15 fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not see a light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't see how things were going to get better. What kept me going was that I didn't come this far to only come this far. I was so fucking stubborn. I'm like, you know what? This is not going to take me out, because I still believe in good. I still believe in doing the right thing, and doing the right thing should result in you getting what you deserve, and working hard should result in getting what you deserve. And I'm not going to give up on that. So my good is still coming. And so I'm not going to give up right now, because then what was it worth? For what?
Yep.
What was everything I experienced? No, fuck you. No, I want to come back and be able to say a big fuck you to everything that had tried to break me. And so that's when I saw this movie called Breath. I think it's, yeah. Or no, it's called Breathe. But basically kind of same concept though. It's a movie about a true story where a man, he gets polio, and he was this adventurer. He was like, you know, he climbed mountains, did all this crazy stuff. And he was basically in an iron lung in that time where it was just a death sentence. You were just going to lie it with a respirator until you died in a hospital. And he begged his wife to kill him. It was just, the movie was brutal. And it was, I think all of us, I don't know about you, but I definitely have somebody that I'm like, hey, if I'm at that point, you got
1,000%.
you know,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
I'll pull the plug on you, even though
I joke with my buddies. It's like, hey, when I get old and decrepit and I can't take care of myself, please come put a bullet in my fucking brain. Like, the second I can no longer fend for myself, please do me the favor. Like, I will love you more for doing that. For you know, so yeah, I do have those friends.
Yeah, and so I think what people fail to understand is that those are physical ailments, right? Our mental ailments are even more powerful.
Oh yeah.
So when our mental ability to see anything past and to believe that anything good can, why would you want to keep going when you truly in your soul believe that nothing is ever going to get better? How do you talk to those people?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but telling somebody that it's a temporary problem, no. Telling somebody that it's going to get better, go fuck yourself. That's the last thing you want to hear is like, yeah, somebody told me that 10 years ago, and guess what? It hasn't gotten better. In fact, it's gotten worse. And so what I do is that I use that movie because he stayed alive because his wife couldn't live without him. And she fought and basically they ended up creating all of this technology where he went home and had kids. He was able to go to parties. They flew him and his family to a facility where they showed him hundreds of patients that were still alive and functioning because of him. And so the whole point is, are you willing to stay alive to save a life? He was willing to keep breathing to save humans.
Yeah.
To save people that were suffering. And I think a lot of us are willing to do that.
Well,
like,
it's awesome because kind of this show parallels kind of that story. I just believe the power of telling stories saves people's lives. I've heard it over the course of this show. Before I even released the first one, a former soldier of mine reached out to me, saw what I was doing on LinkedIn, saw I was launching the podcast, and said, I just checked myself into a VA suicide treatment program because of what I saw that you're doing. Like, that's the whole thing I set out to do with this, was to just save one person. I can't tell you how many messages, emails, website form submissions I've had. Adam, please keep doing what you're doing because it's making a difference. You'll never know the full impact that you have on people. This saved so-and-so's life. And I'm like, to see that come through in the inbox or the DMs or whatever, it's like, oh, I understand like how powerful storytelling can be. And so I'm so grateful that you decided to come on and share your story, because how else do we understand all of the things that we've all experienced through our own careers and understand that we're not alone if people like you and I aren't willing to be vulnerable and tell what has actually happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so now I own a property. I live in a luxury apartment in one of the most expensive cities in the United States. Like, I have a job that, I'm implementing training that is saving lives and helping the entire Marine Corps. So it's pretty cool.
I love it. Athena, I know that you want to help people. I know your job and some things you can't talk about. So if people want to get in touch with you, or, reach out and just maybe have a mentor in you or get advice, can you put stuff out there or no?
No, I can't. I definitely can. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have found LinkedIn is a lot better of a platform.
Way better.
Yeah. I still do stuff on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. I am coming out with a new book that's supposed to be released on the Marine Corps birthday. It's the stories of 26 female warriors that have served in combat throughout history. And it's a picture book. So something very different, but it's written at a level where you could either read it to your kid at night, or you could pick it up and read it on your own. So I'm really excited about that. Like you said, it's the power of a story, and those stories can not only save lives but prevent destructive behaviors like sexual assault, suicide, different things. Anything, name it. It's the power. The story is where prevention is. It's one of the key things to prevention, whether that's, like I said, with suicide, or it's just to keep you going and inspire you to do more and make you feel like you aren't alone in this world.
Yeah. I love it. Athena, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for telling your story. If you ever want to do this again, I'd love to have another conversation with you. I think it's super impactful. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Athena Ives. Please reach out to her if anything that you've heard in this show today resonates with you, or if you just want to meet one of the coolest badass Marine lionesses on the planet. I highly suggest you do. It's been a fantastic conversation. I'm super grateful you agreed to do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week with another awesome episode. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.